to the Daily Debrief. Glad you're with us this evening. An Ohio woman took the stand in her own defense today on charges she murdered her husband. The real question in her case is the degree of the crime. Wife Claudia Hoerig is disputing the state's theory of why she killed Ohio Air Force Reserve Major Carl Hoerig. The state says Claudia drained Carl's bank account, sent his money to her relatives overseas, bought a gun, even practiced at a shooting range before pulling the trigger. She then fled back to her native Brazil. Let's break down the legal strategy in this case. The state is seeking a conviction on aggravated murder with a firearm charges. That's Ohio's most severe homicide law, and it requires premeditation. A conviction there could carry a life sentence under Ohio law. Defense attorneys appear to be pushing, however, for a voluntary manslaughter conviction. They argue Claudia Hoerig killed her husband in a fit of rage. That's what makes this one different. That fit of rage came after a short, abusive marriage, and this conviction on this charge, if the jury sees it this way, would carry a 3 to 10-year sentence. The defendant, as promised, took the stand in this particular case. She claims the victim had all sorts of sexual fetishes, was abusive, and now she's on the stand as we speak talking about a suicide device. She said this was supposed to be a murder-suicide. Let's listen to some of her live testimony right now from Ohio.
What else?
It didn't mean it was not a, that's some subject he didn't want to talk about.
Okay. And did you talk to him about having an abortion?
I asked him why can I have this baby? He said we discussed that, and I don't want you to have a baby. I'm not going to have a baby. He gave me a bunch of reasons why I couldn't have a baby, and I asked him a bunch of times why, and he always had one excuse worse than the other. One was that he never wanted to have another baby. He never wanted a baby in his life, but he had two. He never wanted to be a father, and his first wife trapped him into marriage by being pregnant, and he didn't want it. That didn't sit well with him. A woman coming to him and saying, "I'm pregnant," didn't sit well with him. I said, "Why can I have this baby?" He said, "I don't want to be a father." Then I asked again. Then I gave him an option. I can go back to New York, have it by myself. He said, "I don't want to be a father." Then I think I said, "I go back to New York, have it by myself." And then he said something about sooner or later, you're gonna ask me for money. Then I kept asking him why, and then he said, "I'm gonna adopt my grandchild, Eva, my daughter. She's 18, she's pregnant, she's 8 months pregnant, and I'm gonna adopt her son so she can go to school." So in my head, I'm thinking, so I'm gonna have to kill my child so Eva can have a baby, you can raise your own grandson, and I cannot have my baby. I'm giving you all those options. I can raise it by myself. I can go back to New York. You're never going to have everything. He had an answer just why I couldn't have that baby. Okay. So eventually he got very angry with me. He hit me.
Well, let's stop there and back up for a second. Was that the first time you had heard about this plan to adopt Ava's child?
Oh yeah, never. That was such a betrayal. I felt so hurt by him saying that, he was choosing between another baby and my baby. He didn't feel like a baby was his. It's like it was only my baby.
Okay. And I think you ended with, so the argument kept going, and then you said he hit you?
He hit me.
And where did he hit you?
He just grabbed me by my throat and threw me on the bed, and then we started a struggle.
Okay. And what happened next?
Eventually he stopped that, and he came to his senses. He stopped, and he asked me to leave the room that he was going to shower, and he said we're going to continue that conversation after he showered.
Okay. And you left the room?
I left the room.
Did he lock the door?
He locked the door from inside, yes.
Okay. And after you left the room, what did you do?
Took forever. I was anxious, so I was walking all over the house, up and down. And since I thought about sleeping pills, I had no more sleeping pills in the house because I had taken them all a month before, almost to the day. So I found a bottle of moonshine in our kitchen, something that we bought when we went to Brazil on our trip.
Okay, now,
Never opened it. That day I opened it and I started drinking. And I'm not used to alcohol. And I started drinking that.
and,
Try to calm myself down.
okay. And as you started drinking, what did you start thinking about?
I started thinking, this is not going to work, I'm going to really have to kill myself. And I was really imagining me dying. And I was thinking of other ways of convincing him to let me have the baby. So my mind was racing in both directions. In the direction of killing myself, imagining the whole thing, and in the direction of what else can I say to this man to make him change his mind about this baby. I cannot raise this child by myself. I basically wanted him to change his mind and make the marriage work, so I had the financial means of raising a child, because by myself I didn't think I could.
And at some point, did your thoughts turn to the gun you bought to commit suicide?
Well, I thought my chances were very, very small of making him change his mind. He was red seeing Bergata or whomever he was seeing. I don't know how he really felt about me seeing Bruce. I don't know if he resented me for that, even though I told him I didn't sleep with him. I don't know how it sat with him. But in my mind, he was not going to forgive that part. So I said, you know what? That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put this gun to my head when he opens that door and see if I can make him realize that I'm in pain. Here, I'm desperate. I want him to realize that I'm really desperate. I want him to take me seriously, and I want to talk more. I thought that maybe if I had more chance to say more things to him, if we sat and looked eye to eye, I would have a better chance. So all I wanted is more of his attention. When I put that gun to my head, I didn't really think at that moment I was going to pull that trigger.
Well,
I wanted his attention.
Well, let's stop there and go back. Where was the gun?
The gun was in my pocket. First, initially, it was in a little bag, a little, they call it, it's this small, with a small strap. And then I moved it from that, while I was pacing inside the house, it was in my shoulder inside this bag. And then when I heard noises that he was going to come out of the room, I put it inside my pocket. I was wearing a white coat, and I put it inside my pocket. I was kind of getting ready to make, when he was open the door, he was going to see me with the gun.
And so then you walked up to the landing, out the landing, the little area in front of the doorway at the top of the stairs?
When I heard the noise and I thought he was getting close to the moment of opening the bedroom door, I positioned myself standing there in front of the door with the gun to my head.
And that was the door to the bedroom?
The door to the master bedroom.
Okay. And you would have been standing in the little area at the top of the stairs?
Exactly.
Okay. And so he opens the door from the bedroom and you're standing there with the gun to your head?
Yes.
Okay. And what happens next?
When he opened the door, he saw that he didn't have much of a reaction. He just stared at me for a while, 5, 10 seconds. He didn't do a thing. He kept staring at me, kept staring at him, and I was crying. I was crying, and he didn't have any emotions to his face, nothing. I couldn't read him, no emotion. All of a sudden, he grabbed me. He grabbed my wrist and my throat, and he grabbed me, and he just grabbed me. And then when he was done grabbing me, he just pushed me. He pushed me, and I fell back, and I hit a wall, or there was a bedroom in the middle. I hit that wall, the door frame in that area. I hit my back and my head in there, and I just stayed there. We continued talking for a while I was on the floor and he was standing.
Okay, so he grabbed you by the throat and pushed you down, and then you guys started talking?
We still were talking.
Okay, what were you talking about?
I think I was asking him to continue that conversation, and he didn't want to continue that conversation. And he ended that my attempt of talking to him and convincing him to talk more with me. He cut me short, and then he just said that he didn't care. He thought it was a good idea.
Well, let's stop there. When you said you two were talking, were you just talking to him, or was he talking back to you?
I was doing the talking, and he was doing the, shaking his head like we're done talking.
And then I cut you off when you started. What did he say to you?
I was talking, and so I said maybe 3 or 4 sentences, and he just kept shaking his head like, no, I don't want to talk anymore. And then he said that was a good idea. Why didn't he wait for me? Why didn't I wait for him to leave the house and then go to the basement and shoot myself in the basement so I wouldn't get blood in his paintings? Paintings, what I mean is pictures hanging on the wall by the stairway.
Carl collected paintings.
He was a painting collector, yes.
Okay. And so what he was telling you was, go ahead, kill
I'm going
yourself.
to object to this line of questioning.
So he had paintings that he didn't, that's what he was talking about, was his paintings?
Yeah, he didn't want me to kill myself in right there. He wanted me to go to the basement. He didn't want me to kill myself either on the first floor or the second floor. Told me to go to the basement and wait for him to leave the house. He said that.
And how'd that make you feel?
I felt very angry.
Okay. And what happened next?
Well, I thought to myself, well, that's it. There's no...
Defendant Claudia Hoerig on the witness stand in her own murder trial in Ohio. We're going to take a quick break here on the Daily Debrief, and we will be back with more live testimony in this case when we return. Welcome back to the Debrief, ladies and gentlemen. We are still listening to live testimony from murder defendant Claudia Hoerig as she tries to defend herself from that top murder charge in Ohio. She's on the stand right now. She just testified that she shot her husband, Major Carl Hoerig, 3 times, starting at the top of the stairs. Let's listen back in.
And I thought, no, I'll pull the trigger a second time. Nothing fired. It was, what the heck? What happened here? It was so difficult. So I said, you know what? Maybe the bullets are bad, or something happened to this guy. I don't know. I ran to the basement to put the 5 new bullets in the gun. And at that point, I stopped and I realized, saw his body. I realized what I had done. And I said, let me see if he's still alive. I'm going to call 911. And I checked for his breathing, and I checked his pulse. He was dead. He was dead. So I said, you know what? Now I gotta finish what I started. I ran and to pull the trigger the third time, and my head set again on that little stool, and it was hard to pull the trigger, but that wasn't the reason. The reason why I thought about my family, I wanted to let them know what I did. I didn't want them to know that I did that through the newspaper. So I called them, and I said, look, I did this. I lost my mind. I did this. I killed Carl. And I'm about to kill myself. I just want to say goodbye.
And you called two people.
I just want to say goodbye to you. I'm so sorry that I did that I let you down. I'm so sorry. And then I called my sister from the landline, and I called my father from the cell phone. And then I think they called each other from another phone. My father was talking to my sister also on the phone because my father was in his house. My sister was in her house. I was talking to both of them at the same time. And then my sister gave the phone to her husband, who is a pastor. And he said, talk to her while I talk to my father. And tell her not to commit suicide because she's a Christian, even though she has been away from church for a long time. It's there, and talk her out of it, talk about hell. So he started preaching to me, and I said, don't talk about hell, don't talk about hell, I need to do this, don't talk about hell to me, don't, that's not true. People that kill themselves don't go to hell. I gotta kill myself. Then, I wasn't so sure that people that kill themselves wouldn't go to hell, so I kind of got scared. So my father started, I don't know, either my sister or my father, they were talking among themselves. I didn't hear that. They called somebody, some lawyer, somebody that advised them, look, in Ohio there's death penalty. Get her out of the country. And my father, he asked me, do you know where your passport is? I said, yes, I do. And then he said, where is it? I said, it's in the bank. It's in the safe deposit box. He said, you're going to need it. I said, what for? He said, you're coming home. You're coming to Brazil. I said, no, I can't drive. I'm drunk. And he said, do you have coffee in the house? I said, I do. He said, go make yourself a very strong cup of coffee. You're going to neutralize a little bit of this alcohol in your system. You're going to be able to drive. I said, I can't. I have nothing to. I want to die. I have nothing to live for. I don't. So I was telling him I was not going to go. He was telling me that I was going to go, and he started asking me, directing me. He started directing me. He said, go to the bank. Do you have money? He asked me, do you have money? I said, yeah, I have a little bit of money in the bank. He said, go to the bank, get your passport, get whatever money you can get, and drive to the airport, and you're going to get on a plane, and you're going to come to Brazil, you're going to come home. And I thought, my life is over. But my father was directing me, and my father was not the type that would ever direct me or tell me what to do. I felt like that little girl that Daddy is taking care of, and allowed myself to be directed. And he directed me out of that place. I didn't even really have a reason to leave that place. I wanted to call the police and get it over with. Since I was not going to commit suicide anymore because my brother-in-law instilled that fear of death in me, of hell, I said, I'm not going to kill myself. I'm in bigger trouble. I caused them bigger trouble. Now the minute that I'm alive, everything went wrong. I don't have the courage to kill myself. it got worse. So I didn't really want to live, but I was going to call the police, and, you know, I have no reason to live. But my father didn't let me. He directed me, and I followed those directions.
Listening to live incredible testimony from murder defendant Claudia Hoerig. She's accused in Ohio of killing her Air Force Major husband, Carl Hoerig. Attorney Andrew Cherkasky is on the line with me here to break some of this testimony down here on the debrief. Andrew, what do you think? How's she doing on the stand?
Aaron, it's good to talk to you again. It is not going what I think particularly well for the defense. She laid out a couple hours ago this idea that she was essentially abused, but didn't do so effectively because she had other people to reach out to. She's dating, she has access to money, and now she's talking about in the moment that she wants to kill herself, she turns the gun on someone who's descending the stairs. I don't find that to be a particularly credible defense at this point.
Yeah, what's up with this suicide device that she made that the authorities discussed at the end of last week? She apparently was going to rig this thing up and use the gun to kill herself, but oh, the gun jams at the last second. I mean, if the gun worked fine to fire all these shots at the victim, in this case, the husband, then why did it suddenly not work for her?
Well, at the risk of being insensitive, there's a couple other suicide attempts that she did not go through with. So this seems to be a person who uses suicide as an attention grabber. In fact, in her testimony a few minutes ago, she said, I just wanted more attention. That's what she was doing when she was holding the gun to her head. So I don't know that her suicide attempts were ever any legitimate effort to kill herself, as opposed to just cries for attention.
You could be right. I know we've got a little bit less than a minute left here. Andrew, I'll ask you very, very quickly here. Legal strategy, it seems like the defense is just trying to knock this down to lessen the charge.
Oh, absolutely. And I think in a case like this where it's a what happened, not a whodunit, you've got to do your best to make it as mitigated as possible.
Exactly. I agree. Andrew Cherkasky, appreciate you joining us on the debrief. I agree with your analysis on this one. We're going to continue listening, though. For those of you watching on the Law and Crime Network, our live coverage will continue not only of this case, but also of the McStay family murder case in California. For those of you watching elsewhere, it's the end of the day for the debrief. We're just about out of time. A reminder, the debrief will be back live at either 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock, depending on testimony. Have a good one.